I'm thinking a lot about customer journey optimizations currently with the projects we do as well. And you just mentioned before you want to dive into revenue management in that context as well. But for me, it's always interesting to learn that outside of the industry perspective, right? Because we can take so much away from retail, right?
Yeah.
Because like Amazon, how they treat us, how they idealize the customer journey and convert, it's just amazing. Even for if you first glimpse, if you look on the interface, it really looks, what did you say before? Bad.
It's pretty simple.
It's very
Can I
simple.
say that?
No, you said another word. Booking.com, same for me. Like from a user interface point of view and design point of view, it's a disaster, but it works, it converts, right?
Yeah.
And we can take away the same from airlines, from your background as well, customer journeys. So given that, what pain points do you see still in the industry when it comes to customer journeys, and what's the solution in that context?
So the experience with Allegiant Air, who in the US, well, their piece was that they don't distribute out, right? So they own all their own distribution, but they also fly from underserved markets to focus cities. So they're a vacation airline, and unlike Europe, which has a lot of point-to-point travel, you can kind of fly kind of almost anywhere. The US in general, with the major airlines, were still hubbing through centers. So if you live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you've got to go to Detroit or Chicago to fly anywhere interesting.
Right.
Whereas Allegiant would move in there and go, all right, we can take you to 3 cities in Florida, we can take you to Vegas, and no one else, and they got no competition on 80% of the routes. So that helps. It's unlike hotels where you're kind of stuck physically. They go where there was demand. They distribute everything themselves, so they can they have no sort of commissions going after GDSs. But also some of the stuff they were doing was, and you see this quite commonly with low-cost carriers, is they unbundle the fare, and so that you're choosing, so they see it as a matter of choice, so that you can pay as much as you need to travel. But it's also a way of separating the tax out of it, because there's, in the US in particular, there's a federal charge for the airfare. So your airfare, if you make that as cheap as possible, and then you're putting things into bags and seats and other things, so they're looking for that continual upsell. So we're looking at EasyJet this morning or yesterday, and same thing, Ryanair. Like, you just got all this stuff thrown at you that sort of a little bit obfuscated to make you feel like you have to buy it. So things like if you were to put it in a hotel context. Allegiant sees themselves, and for a period, they're sort of evolving now, but there was a group of people there who, from an airline operational and finance point of view and technology point of view, who have moved on to other places now, and I got to work with them while they were growing the airline significantly. But they saw themselves as a technology company that flew aircraft. So if they look at their booking engines, they own all their own inventory, they sell it, there's all that, no one to distribute through. So they look at air ancillary and third party. There's all sorts of ways they want to upsell. Some of it's bad user journey, some of it you as a from the technology team, you're receiving these requests and you're going, why is this is terrible, but it's profitable. But there was things there, like, from just looking on the hotel side of things, was like, well, if you look at hotel compared to what they value, which is air ancillary and third party, the air ancillary stuff was stuff that yes, you still get a seat on a plane if you bought your airfare, but the air ancillary was stuff if you really want your own seat, if you want to choose your own, add bags, how many bags you want to bring. I mean, there's still government regulation that you have to be able to take personal item on board, but like cabin baggage and other stuff. So they slice it up enough so that some customers think that it's nickel and diming people, but others think that they can fly, around the US for $40 to Vegas is pretty good, rather than spending thousands, right, or hundreds. But thousands if you're coming from, say, Canada, right? So they would set up an airport just on the other side of the border, and then fly people in. They could drive their car for an hour, and then they'd fly to Vegas or Florida, significantly cheaper than an international airfare. So that's if you look at that from the hotel side of things, from the hotel revenue management side of things, my look at that was things like, okay, they show you things in the air ancillary piece that are things that you optionally buy into that sound great. And so, for example, when you see a seat map, they have a 60% take rate, so that or higher. So people always think that they have to, they say, you don't want a middle seat, we've got to buy this. So they always buying, and that's not taxed at the same amount as the airfare. That's why it's unbundled, and that's why they sort of quite maturely, as from a marketing point of view, get you to buy that seat or the extra legroom and these things you don't get. So you apply that to a hotel. Maybe I'm 6'4". Maybe, and I wouldn't sleep in a twin bed because it's 4 inches shorter than a king bed. But maybe if I saw a hotel room map, and there was a floor that only had king beds in it, but they were $50 more a night. And am I sleeping in a twin? Yes, I could, right? But I'd choose the king bed because I will get the 4 inches longer. It's 84 inches or whatever it is.
So basically, like within the booking engine experience, if you could then already pre-select the room which you want to have,
the room type, a room type that's geared around
actually,
geared around that type of experience.
Yeah.
Like it could be that you need the extra. So it's all about influencing you. You don't want to sit in the middle. Well, in a hotel context, it'd be I need a longer bed.
Yeah, or
I have to have a longer bed.
Acquire the room to affect your
And that's the other side. It could be that hotels at the moment, they allow you to, if you're allowing 4 people in the room, what are you doing? Why would you have 2 beds? You want to sell 2 rooms, right? At as much as you can get out of it. So why would I ever fit a room out with 2 beds, right? Two queens, or allow a child under 14, a minor, to be there with a trundle bed, a rollout, but maybe. If you're older than that, you have to, you pay. And some properties do that, right? But what I mean is that from the low cost carrier point of view, they're always trying to find a way where it makes sense for you to buy that extra thing. But then on the other side,
and make the entry point as well easier at the same time.
Because you're starting with a fare it's like $8, and all of a sudden you've spent 300, 300, and they've done that to you because it's your choice at all times. But it's like it makes sense. Like there's some interesting stuff there that they get into in the airline space with the seat maps, which probably is not known, but they do seat masking. So as a family of 3, I've booked through another US carrier, and I guarantee I won't be allocated seats 3 together. My son's 5. So for me to look on the seat map and get 3 seats together, I got to pay.
Yeah.
But they use masking to, again, influence you to choose. I have to choose that one. So there's stuff there that's happening that is quite mature as far as how to get you to pay by increments, and should only show you the big price right at the end when you're about to pay and check out. So there's stuff that they're doing that's interesting. And then, like I said, these are things that are ancillary. I don't actually need them, but I choose to buy them. When you look at the resort fee question, and like San Francisco is getting resort fees, Vegas sort of led the way with the resort fees. It's to do with the fact that the resort fee might be, the hotel stays charged at with the local
like a city tax
and that sort of things, whereas the resort fee will be taxed at sales tax, so it's less. So in the San Francisco context, one's 15%, one's 8.75 or whatever it is. So why pay more tax out to the local government? But they call it a resort fee, and the things that are in there are things that you kind of now expect to be standard, right? So the low-cost carriers will do things like a passenger usage charge and put it right next to the government taxes. So you have these things which look like it's just, that's just a government fee. That's, so they associated that with, that's a compulsory charge from the government, even though it's not. Whereas from
it's rather sneaky.
rather than the hotel space, it was like a resort fee. What the hell? Why am I paying for towels and Wi-Fi? Right? Like that should be part of my stay. They got a pool and I need internet. Like it's a standard thing. So if you were to look at change the name, don't use resort fee, right? And put it right next to the government charges rather than right next to your, what's actually required you to stay, choosing a room and other things. So there's stuff like that I find that when we start getting into discussions like this, that low cost carriers have this knack of really focusing on that upsell, sometimes through trickery in the booking path, But other times it's to really just, from a revenue point of view, they're hiding things in plain sight as well.
Well, it's not really just the low-cost carriers. I mean, the big ones do it too.
Yeah. They're all copying.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk for ages, but before we finish up, I would like to get from the both of you a little bit about what you're doing with TRAVHOTECH. What's your direction with TRAVHOTECH? I know you want to try to do more with startups and work with the startup scene in Vegas. So maybe differentiate for us what's the difference between Testbeds Vegas and TRAVHOTECH and what your plans are.
Yeah, sure. Well, Testbed Vegas was something that Shane and I kicked off through the recognition that Las Vegas as a destination doesn't really have a big technology scene around travel and hospitality, and given that it's one of the, it's the largest consolidated travel destination in the world, and we're both working there in technology, and we're thinking, well, why is this not a place where people are building technology for the industry? Because that's what Las Vegas does, right? So that was the foundation of that, and our energy there is really about trying to establish that industry.
Yeah.
Well, beyond culture, but industry in Las Vegas for all the reasons, not just purely from industry, but state, incentives and living and demographic reasons for being in Las Vegas. So, we kicked that off with the intent of turning it into a hub for industry,
Right.
Which is great for industry because Las Vegas is probably the only place in the world that is entirely focused on the business of travel, hospitality, and entertainment. More than 50% of the GDP of the city comes from the industry.
Yeah, of course.
More than 500,000 people are working directly in that space. So, we just think it's a natural progression, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
And it's a non-for-profit organisation,
Yes.
right?
That's
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we transition to TRAVHOTECH. What's the difference?
Well, that's a for-profit business.
Right. Pretty much what I figured.
No, so TRAVHOTECH is really about leveraging a career experience. So it's a vendor-facing organisation, and it's an operator-facing organisation because we've both been on both sides of industry, and it ranges from helping people get a software product established and built, to looking to enter a new market, whether it be onshore or offshore, because Shane and I have both worked around the world as well. So the reason we're in Europe at the moment is to meet European companies who ultimately will eventually have an interest in coming into a massive hospitality technology market.
And to also perhaps better understand that market, because given the obviously markets are different, and some companies don't transition well with that. So
and they are different, And then of course, from a sort of domestic operation of TRAVHOTECH is for North American-based companies stepping out of North America into the other places we've worked, being Asia and Europe. So and that's the crux of it, and there's a stack of things that we can do in that space given sort of the breadth of our backgrounds that we've had. So it could be mentoring technology leaders, it could be advising them strategically, it could be helping with market entry, it could be digital transformation for operators in the space, or asset optimization programs for hotel operators who are not extracting the full value of the technology they have.
Okay, great.
So it's quite a broad platform that leverages that background.
And so my 2 cents on it is that both companies, regardless of what their overall purpose is it's a vehicle for me to partly stay motivated in this space, is that finding passionate people, because generally some of the best people I've met around travel and hospitality are all very passionate. They're very interested in the fact that their technology enables, this industry enables these travel experiences, guest experiences, right? So, and when you come across and find people who are switched on, who are passionate about what technology can do to enable it, that's the people that I like to meet. So regardless of which business, we're out there trying, coming across people, visiting Cologne, meeting people with very similar mindsets with why we get together and talk and really drive this stuff. Because at the end of the day, it creates, for me, this, even if it's a boring back-end system, it's actually enabling someone's family to have a vacation, create memories, or a business to, succeed. This is what travel and hospitality brings to the world, right? Yeah. So it's a positive contribution to the planet.
I think going back to one of the very early points that you made, about adoption. At the end of the day, I think what we recognise, from our background, because we're both motivated by that, and we've both sort of been in industry, and I would call myself a hotelier first and a technologist second, because I still feel very, very strongly about that. For me, that's always been the point of technology. Technology is really, my view is it's about competitive advantage. And if you can't get some competitive advantage from technology, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. But in our industry, the opportunity, going back to what you had said earlier, Daniel, is well, and some around the marketplace discussion is, well, people aren't used to trying that, aren't used to venturing. The window of opportunity in our industry, I usually say 10 years if you're an early adopter of a piece of technology. But in actual fact, in some cases, it's 20. 20 years of being able to do something because of a tool that your competition can't do, which is an extraordinary opportunity in any business. And that really is, one of the things that we want to try to help people do is be brave and take on the technology for the opportunities that it brings to your business and the big step forward that it gives you. It takes a bit of courage. But in today's world, technology truly is so much more robust than when we all got started in it, and so much more stable. And it doesn't have the risks in it that it used to have.
I think people will be braver to have that courage, if you like, to make that change once they understand more the landscape. It's about, and it all comes back to why we started TechTalk.Travel. It's all about creating that understanding, that knowledge sharing, that educational piece, so that it gives operators, hoteliers, the confidence to be able to understand the conversation when they're sitting in front of technologists or vendors. It enables them with the ability to ask the right questions and the poignant questions, and to know when perhaps they may be having the wool pulled over their eyes. Because that's happened a lot in the past, and that's something that has annoyed me very much, and another reason why we started TechTalk, because it has to be very transparent. There has to be transparency there. In order for us to succeed as an industry when it comes to technology anyway, for people to understand each other on either side of the fence, there has to be transparency. As soon as you put walls up, you're going to have problems.
No, it's true. But, it's funny having seen so much technology come into industry. And we have a lot of technology. A lot of people say, there's no technology yet. That's not true. We have a wealth of great technology in this industry, but if you're not willing to take it on, and if you're not willing to put it into the business, well, sure, it's easy to sit back and lament about what could and should be. But the truth is that if you, it is a strategic approach. It must be a strategic approach. The shotgun approach to technology adoption is not the way to go. And people talk about strategy, and it's an easy throwaway line, but these are assets, and it really does require a very, very well-based and thoughtful approach to what you're doing and where you're going, not because of technology, but because of what you're trying to achieve in your business. Certainly having executed on that in my career, it makes a massive difference with where you start from and how things end up in the end.
And I hope with conversations like this, it makes it more accessible for technologists to understand the industry more, who are going to come up with solutions, because we kind of mentioned before, there's a lot of the real problems that need to be solved are generally people who are solving them in a great way have come from a hospitality background. They've gone to a hotel school, they've got a background in tourism, right? They've Whereas sometimes you're getting new technologies come in that are
more and more.
they have not had that experience. So an example may be something we came across in the housekeeping space, and they were talking about different digital devices. There's a lot of wearables around now. So, well, have you stopped and thought that a housekeeper's job is not to be looking, and they're using their hands for a living? Maybe it's not a wearable on their wrist. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe it's not a wearable at all. Because understanding time and motion and what they do as a job is different. And the fact that technologist or that technology company might not have understood that, because they haven't had the exposure to it, right? Yeah. So there's things there that I find that it's got to be two ways. It's like getting the hoteliers giving them accessibility to understand, but getting more technologists to understand the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I say, because I stayed at a hotel and I thought I knew how to create a hotel product, and it's not true, because it's just staying at a hotel. You tend towards coming up with guest experience or venue discovery and that type of thing, whereas the real problems are back office.
Well, I think the other thing too, which fascinates me, and I used to, something that I used to, talk with my teams about when I was on the operator side, is that 80% of the technology in our industry is used by the operation, and yet most of what we hear about is all the customer-facing technology, which I've always found that fascinating. Because
I think that's shifting, Mark, though, to be honest. I think,
I hope so.
80% was perhaps the case, but now I think it's more meeting in the middle when you consider how the booker, for example, the guest is already having the experience with a hotel well before they've arrived, and that experience is delivered through the technology. And then, of course, the property experience and then the after experience. So you're right. There's a huge component of the on-property from the associates or the staff's perspective. But I think there is a shift there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And I think one of the things that I was just having this discussion yesterday with some other industry peers, and it's a very interesting shift in our industry, watching the guest have so much more to do with creating everything that needs to be done. And as an industry, we don't actually have to do quite as much operationally anymore. You think about reservations, right, or updating registration cards. Well, now they've given you all that information before they've checked in, which changes a lot of things from an operational process perspective.
Absolutely.
Some great technologies out there doing that.
Yeah,
let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Gentlemen, great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, gents. Cheers, mate.
Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Now we have to go for lunch, and then we'll probably end up in a pub somewhere. Which will be, well, it's Friday night, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure you hit the bell button, subscribe, hit the bell button for your notifications. And until next time, it's bye for now. Thanks.